So today I went out into the garden and I had a couple of really big zucchinis. So I decided today I'm going to make some zucchini relish. So this recipe takes a couple of days. I actually have this recipe from when I was I guess I was a teenager. My grandma gave me this book many years ago. Called the Heart of the Home Recipe Cookbook, and this is recipes from farmers from the old Cappers Weekly. And my grandmother used to live in Nebraska many years ago, and so she just loved the Cappers Weekly. She said that she got so many good recipes, so she made this recipe from her garden and I'm making it from mine. So I hope it's something you enjoy. The only difference is I'm not going to go to the trouble of using her grinder. I'm going to use my food processor and just make this really easy. So I'm going to make a half of a recipe. It's very easy. We're going to use 5 cups of zucchini instead of 10. We're basically just making a half a recipe. It's still going to make a lot. So let me show you how I do it. So we're going to start off by grinding up 5 cups of zucchini. This is really easy in a food processor. It just takes a couple of minutes. I just kind of cut it up a little bit. You don't even have to do that. It's really simple. So this is the consistency that I'm looking at getting, and I'm going to go ahead and measure this out. Now this is 1 cup. I'm going to go ahead and measure this and put in 5 cups in my bowl. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to chop up 2 cups of onion. Now I use a yellow onion, and again I put this through my food processor. Now you could chop these by hand if you want to try and chop them really fine, but I just find that this works really good. All right. So all we're gonna do is give this a good stir. There's gonna be a lot of water in it. Just don't worry about that one little bit. Just stir up your zucchini and your onion. So the next step is that we're gonna add 2.5 tablespoons of some kosher salt. And we're just gonna pour that right over it. There's 1, 2, there's 1.5. Okay, so now you're just gonna stir that salt in with your zucchini relish. Very good. Now all we're gonna do is put a lid on this and refrigerate it, and I'll show you the next step tomorrow morning. So my ground and chopped onion and zucchini and salt have been sitting in the refrigerator all night, and I just thought I'd show you. I'm making some fish for dinner, and this is one of the biggest things that I use my zucchini relish for. So I'm going to bring my zucchini relish from this to this, and this is the last jar that I have, so it's imperative that I make more relish. So what I do is I take a little bit of mayonnaise. I make my own homemade tartar sauce. Very simple, just a scoop of mayonnaise, a scoop of this delicious relish. It is so good. I'm not exaggerating. It is just unbelievable. And that's it. That's my tartar sauce. Super simple. That's what I put on my fish. So since I'm having that tonight, I thought I'd just show you how I make it, even though it's ridiculously easy. And we'll get started making our zucchini relish. One of the most important things you have to do is basically drain all the salt off that we had soaking in the zucchini and the onions last night. So I take a colander, I line it with a tea towel. I'm gonna wash this later, and all I'm gonna do is rinse this a couple of times really good in my sink. Okay, I've got my zucchini and onion all drained with all the salt. So I'm just gonna put that right into the stove here, into my pan. Just like this. So to this, we're going to add 1 chopped red pepper. I went ahead and put this through the food processor. Like this. All right. Now to this mix, we're going to add 2 1/4 cups of sugar. All right, there's 1, 2, and this is a 1/2 cup, so I'm just going to use half of this. And there's 2 1/4. Then we're going to use 1 1/8 cup of white vinegar. I'm actually using apple cider vinegar, and this is vinegar that I made just because I'm out of white vinegar, but I've made it with apple cider vinegar many times, and it's come out really good. All right, vinegar, and then I'm gonna be putting in some turmeric. To that, I'm gonna add 1/2 tablespoon. So that's gonna be 1 1/2 teaspoons, or I'm gonna do 3 halves because my little spoon won't fit in here. So I'm gonna do 3 1/2 teaspoons or 1 1/2 teaspoon. Now this is half a recipe. I'm not doing the whole recipe. I'll put the whole recipe in the description below. Then I'm gonna add 1 tablespoon of dry mustard. Just like that. Then I'm going to add 1/2 teaspoon of pepper. So I'm gonna just eyeball this since it's ground pepper. I love pepper. So I mean, I could put in a tablespoon actually. All right, I think that looks good. Then we're gonna add 1 teaspoon of celery salt. Now, I didn't have any celery salt, so I made some. I'm gonna link the video above. If you've never made your own celery salt, it's very easy. So I'm gonna put in 1 teaspoon of celery salt. Like that. Okay, and we're gonna put in 2 1/2 tablespoons of salt. Now I'm gonna use some sea salt. That's 1, 2, and 1/2. There we go. So I've got salt, vinegar, sugar. I need 1 1/2 teaspoons of nutmeg. 1 and then I'm going to need 1 1/2 teaspoons of cornstarch. All right, that's everything we're going to put in this. We're going to give it a stir. As soon as it comes up to a boil, we're going to bring it down to a simmer, and we're going to let that simmer over the stove for 30 minutes, and then we're going to can it into relish. I know it doesn't look like relish just yet, but it's going to, and when it does, this stuff is very, very, very good. My relish has started to simmer, so I've set my timer for 30 minutes, and then I will come back and we will start canning everything into the jars. Okay, our relish is completely cooked. It's got a wonderful consistency to it now. And I'm gonna start filling my jars. Now these are pint-sized jars. Like I said, I only did a small batch. You know, the recipe calls for, you know, a much larger amount of relish, but in all honesty, now I'm gonna fill this to 1/4 inch from the top, but you don't use, you know, that much relish. This is an amazing relish, and I love the way it tastes. It's so good. But, you know, 2-3 jars will really do me for the whole year. So If it looks like I'm gonna need more, I may do another half batch, but honestly, I don't think I will. I think this is gonna be more than enough for me. I think this is gonna give us right at 3 pints. So this will be absolutely perfect amount for me. So all I'm gonna do at this point is I'm gonna take my wooden skewer and just kind of stir it a little bit, make sure there's no air bubbles in the bottom or the sides of the jar, just like that. And then I'm gonna take a paper towel. I'm just going to wet it. I'm just gonna clean the tops. I don't see anything on them, but you know, it's one of those things. You don't always see it. And if there's something there, it can just ruin your seal. So we're gonna just go along the top. Just be nice and careful with it. It's very hot, very hot. See what I mean? Little bit got on the edge there, and that little bit could keep it from sealing. Now we're gonna put our lids on. You always use new lids. I know there's people that will tell you you can use old lids to can, and people do, and things work out fine for them, but you know, it only takes one time where someone gets sick from something you've canned, and you know, it's just not something I wanna do. Okay, so now we're just gonna hand tighten these, just like this. And then what I do to carry it over to the canner is I kind of put it over a bowl just in case I drop it. I don't want anything to happen to it. So I've set my canner back up to a boil. It was already boiling when I took the jars out, but the book says to can it for 5 minutes. I usually just can it for 10 just to be on the safe side. And as soon as that's done, I let it sit in the canner for 5 additional minutes with the heat off. Then I take my jars out. Well, my zucchini relish is completely done. I just took it out of the canner. It looks beautiful. I just love this stuff. So if you have a glut of zucchini, onions, peppers, what have you from your garden, this is another option of something you could make. And I'm not like somebody who buys a lot of relish at the store. I just don't really care for relish, but I don't know, I've been eating this kind of relish since I was maybe 14, 15. My grandmother got those cookbooks when I was in high school, maybe the beginning of college. And she bought herself one and bought me one. And she started making this relish early on, and our whole family would just wait for her to make it. She would make like a couple double batches and hand it out to everybody. So I hope that you'll give it a try, and I hope it's something that you'll enjoy once you do. So thanks for watching. If you're not a subscriber, please consider subscribing to my channel. Give me a like, a thumbs up, or ring the bell for future notifications. And I will see you next time. Have a great day. Bye-bye.